Food assistance could leave some students hungry in North Carolina, but the General Assembly is setting aside some funding for school meals.
Capitol reporter Dina Harley joins us live now in Raleigh. And Dina, federal cuts could trickle down to students.
Yeah, so the way that it works right now is that when families are receiving SNAP benefits and they're eligible for that food assistance, their children who are in school automatically become eligible for either free meals in school or very reduced price meals. But when those SNAP benefits are cut or taken away, that automatic eligibility could be as well. A push to keep food on the table for families in North Carolina, with SNAP benefit cuts looming in 2026. Now students could lose access to free or lower price meals in school cafeterias as well.
When those SNAP cuts take place, that will remove that automatic eligibility, meaning more paperwork, potentially not being qualified any longer for those meals.
So there's a plea from food bank leaders for the General Assembly to step in and fund food assistance programs in the state. In their most recent mini budget, the General Assembly did fund $3 million recurring each year for co-pays that districts pay for free or reduced price meals. It's all part of a federal program that helps supply those. Amy Barrows, the president and CEO of the Food Bank of Central and Eastern North Carolina, says it's a start.
It is a critical first step,
but not nearly enough.
This level of funding is just enough to maintain the status quo. 1 out of every 5 kids faces food insecurity, which is far too many that don't have access to food at home or are worried about their next meal at home.
She says food banks across the state are already seeing a 20 to 50% increase in the number of families they're helping every single day. She says without lawmakers intervening, it'll be North Carolina's youngest that go hungry.
We certainly can't expect kids to go to school and pay attention and learn and be able to advance if they're worried about where their next meal is coming from.
Shalom, this is a big back with another edification. I want to, first of all, give all praises to Yahweh Ba'ashem, Yahweh Shah. And I want to thank all of my subscribers, and I want to wish all of my subscribers high health and high spirits. And I want to wish all of my subscribers are safe and protected against these agendas that are waged against us here behind enemy lines, here in America and abroad, where all the Edomites are. I recently went to the dollar store, and there was some, I guess some voter registration people soliciting customers to register to vote. And I know it's a sin to vote according to the Bible as a Israelite. And I don't participate in voting at all. I just worry about what I need to do as an Israelite here behind enemy lines here in America. And I worry about Yasharallah and me as an individual citizen here in Babylon. And I just worry about myself and focus on how I'm going to do things. But when I was growing up, I grew up in the projects, and then I, went from the projects to the hood, living in a house, and but eventually, my family moved out of the projects, and we ended up getting a house, and then we were still in the hood, but it wasn't the ghetto. And we started moving up and making progress. And I remember going to school and having those little like food cards where like I give it to the cashier after going through the after going through the lunch line. I would give them that card, and they would punch a hole in it, and they would give it back. And I think it had like 30 days on it and stuff like that. So every 30 days I would have to go back and get another one of those cards from the school, and it was the free lunch card, right? And I know my mother had to qualify for that card. And I wasn't raised with a single mother. My parents were married, but the program itself for free lunch we had to qualify for it and we had to be eligible for it, right? And we had food at the house. You know what I'm saying? So if the program didn't exist, then my parents would have packed a lunch for us and we would have just went to school with the lunch, right? But the program was there, and I remember being on that free lunch program. Now, even when I was in high school, there was the same. I think it was the same free lunch program or something like that. But I know when you come to the end of the line in lunch, there's a register, a cashier at the end of the line. And some of those students would pay for their lunch. I never paid for my lunch. I don't remember paying for my lunch at school, right? So I guess I was always eligible because I know once I graduated high school, I was living with my grandmother because my parents was in prison. And I qualified for free lunch as well in high school, I believe, because my grandmother was on a fixed income after she retired from Stouffer's. But however it was arranged with me not falling under her income, I qualified for free lunch as well in high school. But recently, these voters were soliciting customers in the dollar store to vote for free lunch. But what I started to think about was the same people, the same students who these voters or these people that were soliciting voters, the same people that they're trying to get free food for are the so-called Black, Latino, Native American children. And I started thinking today as an adult, these so-called blacks with all of the scoffing, the resentment for the Most High, and the scoffing and the unbelieving. I started to like, and of course I don't vote. I never voted. No, I don't vote. And I started to think about it all. Like, damn, these scoffers have children that are like trying to get free lunch, and then of course they need votes. So the same scoffers that these voting agendas are targeting are the same scoffers that don't like the Most High, right? So I told the people, I said, hey, well, I don't vote. It's against my religion to vote, and all that kind of stuff. I was telling them how I don't vote, and the one brother was trying to convince me to just sign up, just register. He was like, well, even if you don't vote, you can, it'll still count if you just register to vote. And he was saying how, a person can use the voting registration as a form of identification, even if they don't vote and stuff like that. So I told him, no, thank you. No, thank you, man, because my position right now as an adult opposes who these agendas target. You know what I'm saying? And when I was growing up, I didn't have any resentment or disdain or disrespect for the Most High, and all the hatred for the Most High. So today I started thinking about these same people who scoff at the Most High and the Israelites, right? And the agendas today are representing these unbelievers and these scoffers and heathens, right? So I'm different today, where it's not hypocritical, because me growing up, like I said, I wasn't a scoffer and I wasn't a hater of the Most High or his wine, right? Or his word, right? So like I was explaining to the brother, that I don't participate. And a lot of this, and around this time of the year, being that the budgets are being cut for the funding of programs around this time of the year with Babylon, so-called Black, Latino, Native Americans are looking for this funding for the programs that their children or themselves are qualifying for. So I told them, I don't participate. But what it made me think about was Deuteronomy 28 and 48. Let's go here. Because I told them I don't participate and all that kind of stuff, and it just made me think about these curses, okay? And I'm gonna start at 28 and 45. It says, moreover, all these curses, let me see. Let me go here. I'm gonna start at 41, but my point is in 48. It says, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity, right? It says, all thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locusts consume. Now these are the curses that came over the Israelites, the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Indians. It says, all thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locusts consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. He shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. Now, here in Babylon, here behind enemy lines here in America, the Edomites, this is their current rulership after they stole the land and oppressed the people with their rulership. The so-called whites did, and they're affected. And now the so-called whites, which are the Edomites, they call themselves Americans, but they're Edomites. They're being affected by the programs as well, because it's not just Israelites that are on these programs. There's a lot of Edomites that are on these programs too, so-called whites. They are on welfare too, okay? And now, the video, the news the video in the beginning of this was from 9 months ago, but I just played that video from 9 months ago, but 2 days ago, these voters or whatever was trying to solicit me for to vote for the funding of the school or of the free lunch. So I'm sitting there thinking like, damn, I was never one of those scoffers, and then here all these people have a hatred for the Most High, a hatred for the Israelites, a hatred for the truth, but then they go around and solicit votes from everybody, all opposition. They don't care who votes, just long as they get these votes from people that they don't like and people who represent the Most High even. So I just said, no, I don't participate. You know what I'm saying? And I know people think, well, that's not how people thought about it when you were on the program as a child. That's true. But my parents were not into this truth like I am. And we qualified just because we was, my parents was moving the way they was moving. Okay, now today, I'm different. I'm not trying to sign up for welfare and live in the projects, and I'm not a family, with my children and the mother. You know what I'm saying? So I'm moving different. You know what I'm saying? And times have changed as far as what I'm doing versus what they were doing. So I think different. And I'm sitting there thinking like, damn, so that it says here, moreover, 45, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes, which he commanded thee. And, depending on Babylon for food, and this place has the nerve to say the land of the free, and there's nothing free about this place, because I could see if this country set aside farms specifically for the school systems, or if everything was free as far as Babylon collecting seeds and passing out seeds to the families for free, so that the families can live for free, where they weren't paying rent, and they can afford to harvest crops. Like if every family was a basic farmer, you know what I'm saying? Like every Marine is a basic rifleman. But if America was giving things away for free and not charging for electricity, see, and not use not subscribing to usury, then the people would actually have free food, right? At home as well. There wouldn't be a need for eligibility or to qualify for free food. America, here behind enemy lines, food should be produced. You pay the people to produce the food, but you shouldn't charge people to eat the food. You know what I'm saying? So I can see if it was a different setup, right? But to qualify and to have funding for food and stuff like that, that's all. You could blame Esau Edom for that, the so-called white race for that, for not making things free, when they say this is the land of the free, and nobody's really free, right? You're not free from debt. You're not free from bills. You're not free from usury, right? So we know that the banks control America, just like the game Monopoly. The bank always wins, but the setup is unjust and wicked, right? You got to qualify for free food, right? So I started thinking about that when they was trying to solicit me to vote, and I'm thinking, this is ridiculous. It's ridiculous that this place doesn't even make it free to have electricity, or it's not free to eat. Even if it's not free to eat, I'm not talking about going out to restaurants. I'm talking about if there's families that have homes, why charge? First of all, everybody should have a place to stay in America, here behind enemy lines. But with the so-called white race, they don't make things free. Okay, so I started thinking about all of that. All right, and that's a fantasy to think that everything should be free right now, right? That's a fantasy. But they say this is the land of the free, and nothing's free about this place except for, sin. All right, sinning. You know what I'm saying? Making it seem as if it's okay to sin, right? You can make that decision with no charge. But of course, the wages of sin is death. So it comes with you're gonna pay a price to sin, right? But I'm saying, if a person decides to sin, deciding to sin is free. Deciding to sin is free, right? But anyway, It says, because thou servest not the Lord, the Most High, thy God, with joyfulness and with gladness of heart for the abundance of all things. All right, therefore thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Lord shall send against thee in hunger and in thirst and in nakedness and in the want of all things. Right, and he shall put a yoke of iron upon thy neck until he have destroyed thee. Right, it says, the Lord shall bring a nation against thee from far, from the end of the earth, as swift as the eagle flieth, a nation whose tongue thou shalt not understand. Right, it says, a nation of fierce countenance, which shall not regard the person of the old, nor show favor to the young. Right, and that's what I'm thinking, like, damn, these blacks, right, which I'm not black, I'm an Israelite, but these blacks trust the system. They trust the programs here in Babylon, here behind enemy lines here in America. They trust the system that deceives them into thinking things are free when things are not free, right? So I just thought that was another part of the curses of Babylon that, it trickles all the way down to the school systems. And like I said, when you come to the end of the line in school, there's a cashier, all right? And like I said, I could see if you got to pay the workers, but that should come out of the budget of borrowing from the banks, right? If I was running the country, then you would have to borrow the money from the banks to pay the people. Of course, you could tax that or whatever, however you want to do it, but to actually charge the people that are hungry, that's usury. That's ridiculous. That's where these programs come in, charging people to eat. I'm talking about at home, right? If the government sent seeds every month, you get a batch of seeds or whatever, or for free, right? I can see if they sent out seeds for free, because we used to get government cheese, that big old block of cheese in the cardboard when we were in the projects. And you qualify. You have to qualify as far as being below a poverty rate, a certain level of income to qualify for this quote unquote free, which is not free. It's coming out of somebody's paying for. The taxpayers. Everybody complain about people that are eligible or qualifying for handouts, but they say the taxpayers are paying for this kind of stuff. So again, why do the people have to pay for stuff, if anything, if they call it the land of the free, right? Of course it's a contradiction. It's not true that nothing's free, right? And it goes on, it says, and he shall eat the fruit of thy cattle and the fruit of thy land until thou be destroyed, which also shall not leave thee either corn, wine, or oil, or the increase of thine kind, or flocks of thy sheep, until he have destroyed thee, right? So I thought that was another part of the curses that these so-called blacks are dependent on America for food, right? Let's see, it says here this is Deuteronomy, I think it's 28 and 35, right? Let's see. Right, Deuteronomy 28 and 35. And it says, the Lord shall smite thee in the knees and in the legs, right? With a sore botch that cannot be healed from the sole of thy foot unto the top of thy head, right? The Lord shall bring thee and thy king, which thou shalt set over thee, unto a nation which neither thou nor thy fathers have known, and there shall thou serve other gods, wood and stone, which is that damn white Jesus, all right, that false idol, right? And thou shalt become an astonishment, a proverb, and a byword. And I'm reading this because these are the curses that shall come over black people. You know what I'm saying? Calling themselves black, all right, which is a byword, all right. And they're really Israelites, but they want to identify as black, and there's a lot of hate towards black people, even though they call themselves submitting and being friendly and being apologetic to so-called whites, but these so-called whites still hate you. All right, they still hate you. And this is how black people get treated, right? With programs and handouts, all right, by their enemies, all right? It says, thou shalt carry, Salakia. It says, thou shalt carry much seed out into the field and shall gather but little in, for the locust shall consume it. It says, thou shalt thou shalt plant vineyards and dress them, but shall neither drink of the wine nor gather the grapes, for the worms shall eat them. All right, thou shalt have olive trees throughout all thy coasts, but thou shalt not anoint thyself with the oil, for thine olive shall cast his fruit. Okay, it says, thou shalt beget sons and daughters, but thou shalt not enjoy them, for they shall go into captivity. Right, and needing those programs to eat, that's just another one of the curses. And of course, Babylon can't even feed their own. These so-called whites won't even allow their own race to eat for free, right? So what's the point of having a nation if it's not righteous and the food is not even being consumed for free? You got to charge the people to eat, right? That's wicked. It says, it says, all thy trees and fruit of thy land shall the locust consume. The stranger that is within thee shall get up above thee very high, and thou shalt come down very low. Right? It says, he shall lend to thee, and thou shalt not lend to him. He shall be the head, and thou shalt be the tail. It says, moreover, all these curses shall come upon thee and shall pursue thee and overtake thee till thou be destroyed, right? It just keeps, it's just one of those things, man, where it's just like, damn, y'all can't even eat. You can't even eat for free. You can't even eat for free in a place that you call home, right? You can't even eat for free in a place that you call home, man. It says, all these curses shall come over thee, shall overtake thee, till thou be destroyed, because thou hearkenest not unto the voice of the Lord thy God to keep his commandments and his statutes which he commanded thee. And today you could plant your own stuff, man. You could plant your own stuff, you could plant your own food, and the so-called blacks won't even do that just to make sure their children can eat for free and go to school with their own food. So I just thought about that overall, how damn, black people won't even plant their own crops. They won't even pursue their own land to grow their own food so that they don't have to depend on a nation that is considered their enemy, right? That's what I was thinking about when I was paying attention to these voters attempting to solicit me to vote for a program that is that can't receive funding and is based on votes. It's based on votes. You got to vote you got to vote to be fed. You have to qualify for a program to feed your children, and the parents don't even, the parents don't even consider that they should pursue a garden. They should pursue land so that they can grow their own food so that they can feed their children. But they rather depend on Babylon. They rather depend on these programs. They rather depend on being impoverished. But again, I thought about the same people that scoff at the Most High, the same group of unbelievers who don't like the word, they don't like the Israelites. I wouldn't vote for them to, I wouldn't sin and start voting just so that these people can eat. When I'm thinking that's like a civil rights fight. It's like a civil rights agenda, you know what I'm saying, today, where we could just go get a piece of earth today and plant some seeds and have a garden and pursue that and teach children how to farm, teach children how to depend on seeds all over again, right? Because that's what the Most High talks about, seeds. And that would be a way of not having to depend on a program. So I don't want to get long-winded and repetitive, but that's just what I thought about when they were trying to get me to vote. And then I hear these, the news talking about that, the funding for these programs going to be cut, and children are not, children can't afford to eat at home either. Like, it's like not just the school providing free lunch, but even when they go back home, they don't even have food at home, right? And that's what I was thinking, like, damn, they rather qualify for programs instead of, and that's just programs, at the schools, but there's the programs for like the food stamps. But why depend on all of that when we can go back and depend on, or those people can go back and depend on the seeds to grow, and they can educate themselves on how to grow, how to produce food themselves. That's something that they're not doing, right? So I just thought about that. They rather be under the curses and qualify for programs instead of just going to educate themselves on how to grow crops. And I know that's like, well, what about, I mean, there's jobs, yeah, but you can buy certain foods from the grocery stores during the wintertime and stuff like that. Or you can have an artificial garden, but it's all about which would you rather depend on, your enemy, or would you rather depend on the seed itself? So that's all I had. Hopefully somebody been edified. I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahweh Shai. This has been a beat. And I want to thank all of my subscribers. I want to wish all of my subscribers high health and high spirits. And wish that all of my subscribers are safe and protected against these agendas that are waged against us here behind enemy lines, here in America and abroad, wherever the Israelites are scattered. Shalom.